Recycle art to me means less waste. It means being able to repurpose, and it's something I've always been passionate about, recycling, just general household waste. But now I get to do it a bit more creatively. Hello, my name is Kate Cruz. I'm a British artist based in Newcastle, and I make artwork out of driftwood. I started with driftwood art by being inspired by another local artist. I'd bought a piece of his a few years ago and always fancied having a go. And then one day I decided to go to the beach, start picking up driftwood, and had a go at it. And I was pretty much hooked straight away. The driftwood was so easy to see what I could make. So as soon as I picked it up, sometimes it looked exactly like a boat or a lighthouse or a piece of scenery. So it gives you the inspiration before you've even had to take it home and think of something from scratch. I've always been creative, but I've never really pursued it as much as I have now. And I've tried everything from pottery, knitting, crocheting, all kinds of sewing and model making. So this kind of just accumulated all together. So all of those previous experiences from a child up to adult have all kind of helped with being able to do the art that I do now. The idea to start with was just to make little houses that I would sell at fairs. I never quite intended it to go as far, I think, as what I did. And then I got such a good reaction, even to the earlier pieces, which were a little bit more rough around the edges. And it just gave me the confidence to keep going. I start with going to the beach, and even the wood I bring home, sometimes when I pick it up I immediately know what I want to do with it. Sometimes it takes to washing it, sometimes it takes cutting it up into a smaller bit, especially when there's a really large piece. And I don't tend to do the larger pieces as much, simply because they're harder to fill. So once I get home, I'll clean the wood down, scrape off anything that needs to be removed. And sometimes I can pick up the same bit of wood 20 times, and it's the 21st time that I think, that's what it is. And I work out what needs to go on it. Sometimes it's houses, sometimes it's a lighthouse, sometimes it's just a normal scene of just, a couple of boats. Sometimes it's a whole mixture. Then I would cut the house up to the right size. Sometimes I then cut it down smaller. I then paint the houses and put on the roofs, paint the windows, and then sit it on the piece of wood. And then from that I have my collection of random bits and bobs, and I pull out all of the rusty bits, see whether it needs a lamppost. I make little post boxes, and I just have a play around until the scene looks right. Other times it's just immediately obvious. I don't need to play around. I can just put it straight on and it's just that one bit and it's done. But once I've done all that, it all then just gets glued in place, and then it sits there for a little while until I decide whether it's done or not. And then sometimes I'll add a little bit more. It can be a very quick process. Sometimes it can be a couple of hours, and other times it can be days and days because I'm waiting to find that right bit of wood, or especially where I do trees, I'm looking for the right bit of, the right pine cone or the right branch piece to come out. And it can sit there for months until it comes around. The materials that I use, mainly driftwood, and pretty much anything and everything that I find. Even walking down the street, I'll see a rusty bit of metal. I find old bits of netting that I pick up at the beach as well. I recycle unused nutshells. We go through a lot of pistachio nuts in this house, and they get turned into boats. And even when I need things like paint, I try to find old pots of paint that people are throwing out rather than going buying new. So I run around all my family asking for tester pots and leftover bits of paint, and raid their garages for anything that they just don't use. The amount of things that pile up. I mean, even in my own garage, I keep coming across stuff that I probably bought years ago and forgot about. Predominantly, I have two areas that I work in. So the workshop is within my garage, and that's where I do all the messy stuff. So all of the cutting, the sawing, the sanding, the cleaning, and often storing everything. I bought a professional bandsaw because I can't cut for toffee. And I used to say it was part of the rustic charm, but I couldn't cut in a straight line. So I went and bought a proper bandsaw, which is fantastic, and it just means I can be quicker at what I do. There's not actually a great deal of tools necessary. You could easily do this with a saw, a drill, and a paintbrush. Is all you really need. I make houses because I think I'm naturally drawn to architecture. I like houses, I like seeing other people's houses. I love walking around cities and seeing architecture. I like that when I have a bit of free rein, but the brief is to be inspired by certain places, because then I do a bit of research on the local architecture there, and you try out different styles of houses. My inspiration mainly comes from the piece of wood itself, and I'll often see, especially the longer bits, it'll look like a bay or an inlet or a mountainside or cliffside. But when I'm needing that further inspiration, it's a lot of it's from other artists, especially painters who do landscapes. The colours that I'll take away and put into, because there's not a lot of colour necessarily in my creations, because it's all about the wood, and I don't want to just completely paint it, because I feel like you're covering up the natural beauty, and that's why I started doing it. Recycle art to me means less waste. It means being able to repurpose, and it's something I've always been passionate about, recycling, just general household waste, but now I get to do it a bit more creatively. It just means not having to go out and buy it, and it's fed through into my general life as well. I've often stopped people from buying me, you know, needless birthday presents or Christmas presents just because the need to buy something. And I stress, hey, if you want to go down the beach and bring me some wood, I'm just as happy as if you turn up with, you know, a gift for my birthday, because then I get to, you know, I get to use it, I get to be creative with it, as opposed to just, you know, sticking on a new pair of socks. I've had a lot of really good feedback, and I think that's probably what's driven me. So I've had lots of hobbies in the past where it's generally been my mum and my dad who have, you know, put it on the mantelpiece, that kind of thing. But it was really heartwarming when I had people approach me from all over the world, especially young kids. It's lovely when you do fairs and you're at craft markets, and you can show them what you do, and you just tell them, you know, save your pistachio shells and you can make little boats, and it's something that they can easily pick up. This is something that anyone can do, and I always encourage them to do it as well, because I've loved doing it. I would say go out and have a look, you know, wander around, you know, if you've, even if you don't live near a beach, walk through the forest, even walking around an urban place, there is always things that people throw away that you can pick up and create with. It always used to put me off that, you know, if I didn't have the money to go and buy all of these different materials to be able to make what I wanted. And I wish I'd thought about this years ago. It was one of those that, oh, you know, I wish 10, 15 years ago I'd thought of just going up to the beach and picking up bits of wood and creating stuff, because I'm pretty sure I would have had the inspiration, but it took me being inspired to go and start doing that. And what I really hope is that when I speak to people about my art, that I have that same effect, that people keep a hold of their pistachio nuts and make little boats, or they go and pick up a rusty nail and think, oh, that looks like a lamppost.